This is the long haul, a sleep story. The year is 2283. You are the captain of the MSV Meridian, a cargo freighter arriving at Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. The Europa subsurface port sits on the frozen surface, a small cluster of modules against an endless plain of white. Below it, carved tunnels descend through 15 kilometers of ice to an observation gallery at the boundary of a global saltwater ocean. Life was discovered here in 2147. Simple organisms, chemosynthetic, feeding on hydrothermal vents deep in the dark. Some of them produce light. The bloom, a periodic explosion of bioluminescence, has been active for 6 days. The Meridian schedule aligned with it for the first time in 3 years. You have a few quiet hours while the crew handles cargo. Enough time to descend through the ice all the way down to watch alien life make its own light in an ocean no sun has ever reached. Close your eyes, settle in, and if you feel comfortable, click like and subscribe. It really helps. And leave a comment to let us know where in the universe you are listening from tonight. Now, let the journey carry you to rest. You wake to stillness, not silence. The Meridian is never truly silent, but something close. The drive has finished its correction burn sometime in the night while you slept, and the ship drifts on approach, unpowered, coasting. The hum has dropped to its lowest register, a frequency you feel more than hear, a vibration in the bunk frame that is almost indistinguishable from your own heartbeat. You lie in your bunk for a long time. The cabin is dim. The amber lamp is off. You must have forgotten it last night, and the recycler hums its quiet morning cycle, pushing clean air through the vents in a slow, steady breath. The only light comes from the viewport above you, and it is not the light you expected. Jupiter, it fills the viewport. Banded cream and amber, swirled with storms older than human civilization, the atmosphere layered in stripes that wrap the planet from pole to pole. The great red spot is visible near the lower edge, a vast eye turning slowly, a storm wider than Earth that has been turning for centuries and will turn for centuries more. You have seen Jupiter before, from Titan. It was a bright disk among the stars. From here, it is something else entirely. It is enormous, a quarter of the visible sky filling the viewport the way no planet has before, not even Mars at close approach. The bands move, though you cannot perceive the motion. You know it only because the swirls at their edges shift over hours, curling and folding like cream stirred into coffee. Cream, amber, rust, ochre. A planet of weather and nothing else, radiating more heat than it receives from the distant sun. You watch it for a while. There is no hurry. The approach to Europa is slow, patient, and docking is still 2 hours away. You let Jupiter fill your vision, banded and silent and impossibly large, and the light it reflects dim, this far from the sun, is enough to cast faint shadows across your cabin ceiling. Then you notice, below Jupiter's curve, a small white disk, Europa. Tiny against the gas giant, a moon of ice no larger from this distance than a coin held at arm's length. The surface catches the dim sunlight and glows faintly, white, cracked, flat, like a porcelain plate that has been dropped and carefully reassembled. You rise slowly, pull on your ship clothes, the soft trousers, the long-sleeved undershirt, the fleece you keep on the hook by the door. The fabric is soft from years of washing and recycler drying. You run a hand through your hair and glance once more at Jupiter through the viewport. It will still be there when you return. The corridor is quiet. The overhead lights are on their morning setting, warm and low, casting a gentle amber along the deck plating. Your footsteps are soft. From somewhere ahead, the sound of the coffee machine, its familiar hiss and gurgle, a sound you have heard 10,000 times and never tired of. The galley. Dr. Okafor is already there, standing by the window with a mug in both hands, the steam rising in a thin curl. He is not drinking. He is staring out at Jupiter with the expression of a man who has waited a long time for something and cannot quite believe it has arrived. He turns when you enter. His eyes are bright and there is a stillness about him that you recognize, the stillness of someone trying not to let excitement overtake composure. "Captain," he says, "the bloom is still active. 6 days now. They're saying it could be the strongest in a decade." He says this quietly, the way someone might share news of a miracle they are not sure they deserve to witness. You pour your coffee. The machine dispenses it hot and dark, the same beans you have been drinking since Mars, rationed carefully, the smell filling the small galley with something warm and familiar. You stand beside Okafor and look out. Europa is closer now, growing visibly. You can make out the fracture lines on its surface, lineae they are called. Cracks in the ice, etched over millennia by Jupiter's relentless tidal pull. Okafor has been reading about the bloom for weeks. He is not a biologist, he is your medical officer, but biology is what he loves. He has files on his tablet, research papers, images of the organisms, magnified thousands of times. He showed you one last night. A loose spiral of translucent beads, each one a single cell, each one capable of producing light. 3 years, he says, still looking out at the white disk of Europa growing against Jupiter's flank. 3 years since we were last in the Jovian system during an active bloom. I thought we'd miss it again. He takes a slow sip of coffee. You say nothing. Some moments do not need words. Europa grows in the window. The ice plain stretches to every horizon, white and flat, scored with those long brown fracture lines like veins on a pale hand, like the craquelure on an old painting. No mountains, no craters to speak of. The surface is too young, constantly renewed by the tidal flexing below. Just ice, stretching away in every direction, and below it, hidden, patient, an ocean larger than all the oceans of Earth combined. The port is visible now, a small cluster of modules on the ice, connected by covered walkways, their white walls barely distinguishable from the ice beneath them. Antennae, a landing pad marked with guidance lights. From orbit it looked like a scattering of white seeds on a white tablecloth, easy to miss, easy to lose against the endless ice. As the meridian descends, it gains definition. Walls, windows, a flag, the Europa Research Cooperative, blue and white, hanging perfectly still in the vacuum. The docking clamps engage with a soft thud that travels through the hull. The meridian settles onto its cradle, and then you feel it, or rather, you feel the absence of something. Gravity here is 1/8 of Earth, lighter than the Moon, lighter than Titan, lighter than Ceres. The lightest gravity you have experienced in all your years on this circuit. Your body barely has weight. When you stand from the bunk, you rise too fast, overshooting, catching yourself on the bulkhead with one hand. When you step, your foot lingers in the air a moment too long before finding the floor again. It is like walking in a dream, each movement slow, floating, almost weightless, as though the moon is barely holding you, as though it might let go at any moment. You take your time in the airlock. The pressure equalizes. The inner door opens onto a short corridor connecting the meridian to the surface module, and as you step through, the first thing you notice is the cold. Not in the air, the heating is adequate, but radiating from the walls, the floor, from every surface that faces the ice outside, minus 160 degrees, just beyond the hull. The second thing you notice is the quiet. It stops you. You stand in the corridor, one hand on the wall, and listen. The meridian's hum is gone, sealed behind the airlock. The surface module has its own systems, air recyclers, heating, but they are tuned to near silence. You can hear your own breathing, your own heartbeat if you hold still. This is the quietest place you have ever been. Quieter than the Spine on Ceres, quieter than the Dawn Terrace on Mars, quieter than Titan's methane shore. A silence so deep it has texture, like velvet, like the space between heartbeats. 80 people live here. 80 on a moon of Jupiter, beneath a sky of hard radiation and ancient ice. They came to study the dark ocean below, and the quiet has seeped into them. The loudest of them is a murmur. They move through the corridors in soft shoes, nodding as they pass, and the station breathes around them, slow and steady. You pass through the corridor to the common room. It is a wide, low-ceilinged space with padded chairs arranged in clusters. A window faces Jupiter, always Jupiter, hanging in the same place, because Europa is tidally locked. It does not rise. It does not set. It simply is. A shelf of physical books lines one wall. Actual paper, actual spines, actual weight. Someone has arranged them carefully, sorted by subject, the spines aligned. You read a few titles as you pass. Geology, marine biology, a collection of poetry by someone you do not know, a novel you recognize from your childhood that you have not thought about in 20 years. You wonder who brought it here, across all that distance. A woman sits in one of the padded chairs, a book open on her lap, reading with the slow attention of someone who has nowhere else to be. Near the window, a man sketches Jupiter in a hardbound notebook, his pencil moving in slow, careful strokes. Nobody speaks. The only sound is the faint scratch of graphite on paper, and even that seems to apologize for existing. You stand by the window for a moment. Jupiter's bands are sharper from the surface than from orbit. The boundary between cream and amber is crisp, almost painted. The great red spot has rotated slightly since you last looked. A storm 3 times the width of Earth, turning and turning. It makes no sound. That is the strange thing about Jupiter from here. A storm that could swallow 3 Earths, and from this distance it is perfectly, absolutely silent. You could watch it for hours and hear nothing but your own breathing. The customs officer finds you near the window. She is small, dark-haired, efficient, with the calm, unhurried manner of someone who processes perhaps 2 arrivals a week. Her voice is barely above a whisper. She checks your credentials on a handheld screen, logs your arrival, and hands you a thin card, the radiation briefing. The surface of Europa sits within Jupiter's radiation belts. Unshielded, the dose would be lethal within hours, but you will not be on the surface for long. The ice tunnels begin a few hundred meters from here, and with every meter of ice above you, the radiation falls. By the time you reach the research level, it will be lower than a quiet afternoon on Earth. The ice is the shield. 15 kilometers of frozen water between you and the sky, absorbing the radiation Jupiter pours across this moon's surface. You tuck the card into your pocket and nod. The customs officer nods back. Neither of you has spoken above a whisper, and it did not occur to either of you to try. You find the entrance to Ice Lock 3 at the far end of the surface module. A heavy door, insulated, with a temperature warning stenciled in white paint. Beyond it, the corridor narrows and the walls change, from station composite to something older, colder, realer. Beyond it, the ice tunnels begin. The door opens. The cold reaches you first. Not a gust. There is no wind underground, no atmosphere to carry it, but a deep, radiating cold that presses against your face and hands like something solid, like a wall of invisible glass. Your breath turns to fog instantly, a white cloud that hangs in the perfectly still air for a long moment before slowly, reluctantly dispersing. The tunnel stretches ahead of you, curving gently downward and out of sight. The walls are ice, not rough, not jagged, polished smooth by the boring machines that carved this passage decades ago. The surface almost glassy, almost reflective. They glow, a pale blue-white lit from within by embedded strips that cast no shadows. The light seems to come from everywhere at once, from the ice itself, as though the moon is showing you the way. You step onto the rubberized floor. It gives slightly under your feet, textured for grip against the moisture that condenses and freezes on every surface. Even so, there is a faint slipperiness, a reminder that you are walking inside a moon made of ice. You move carefully, one hand near the rail, each step deliberate. The handrail is cold through your gloves. Where your hand grips it, the frost melts to a thin sheen of water. Where it does not, the frost remains, a delicate white fur of crystals, undisturbed, grown in the still cold air. You leave a trail of clear metal behind you as you walk, and behind you, slowly, the frost begins to grow back. The tunnel descends. The gradient is gentle, perhaps 5 degrees, but constant, unwavering, taking you deeper with every step. The ice walls slide past on either side, translucent and faintly glowing, and the silence is enormous. It wraps around you like a blanket. It fills the tunnel the way water fills a glass completely, leaving no room for anything else. You can hear your footsteps, the soft press of rubber on rubber, each step a quiet percussion in the silence. You can hear your breathing, slow and steady, and the faint whisper of air moving in and out of your lungs, and beneath those sounds, nothing. No wind, no traffic, no voices, no distant machinery, no birdsong, no insects, no running water, just ice and quiet, and the faint hum of the heating elements in the floor keeping the rubberized surface above freezing. The walls are beautiful. You did not expect that. You expected utility, functional ice carved and maintained, a means of getting from one level to the next. But the ice is not uniform. It has texture, depth, variation. In places it is milky white, opaque, dense with tiny crystals that scatter the light. In others it clears, becoming almost transparent, a window into the frozen interior of the moon itself. And you find yourself slowing, looking, the way you might slow to look at stained glass in an old church. Air bubbles, millions of them, trapped in the ice when it formed, sealed inside as the water froze around them. They are tiny pinpoints, most of them, but in places they cluster into clouds, frozen constellations suspended in blue-white glass. They have been here for billions of years, since before multicellular life existed on Earth, since before anything anywhere had eyes to see them. You stop. Press your palm flat against the wall. The cold bites immediately, sharp and deep, but you hold it there. Through the ice, a few centimeters from your skin, a cluster of bubbles hangs motionless. Gas from the early solar system, sealed in ice before anything on Earth had learned to breathe. Before anything anywhere had learned to breathe. You are separated from them by a thin wall of frozen water and 4.5 billion years. You hold your hand there until the cold becomes too much. 10 seconds, perhaps 15. Then you pull it away and continue walking. Your palm print remains on the ice for a moment, a ghost of warmth, the outline of your fingers slowly blurring as the frost reclaims the surface. You walked this far to touch something billions of years old, and it felt like ice. Of course it did. The tunnel continues. The gradient steepens slightly as you approach the research level. You pass a junction, a side corridor leading to a maintenance area, marked with yellow chevrons and a faded service log clipped to the wall, and continue downward. The cold presses closer. The ice presses closer, deeper into the moon. The color of the walls is changing, still blue-white, but the blue is richer now, more saturated, as though someone has slowly turned up the intensity. The ice above you is thicker, denser, compressed by its own weight. The light strips adjust, warming slightly, but the walls themselves glow cooler, deeper, pulling the color towards something that has no name between blue and indigo. You reach the research level after 20 minutes of walking. A set of insulated doors, heavier than the first, with pressure seals and a green status light glowing steadily above the frame. They open onto warmth. Actual warmth, generous and deliberate, the air heated to a comfortable 21 degrees. After the chill of the ice tunnels, it meets your face like a soft hand, and you stand in the doorway for a moment, letting it reach you. The smell reaches you next. Garlic, mushrooms, butter perhaps. Someone is cooking in the canteen, and the scent drifts through the corridors, warm and grounding and utterly ordinary. 780 million kilometers from Earth, and someone is making lunch. The normalcy of it steadies you in a way you did not expect to need. The research level is a series of connected modules, white-walled, well-lit, humming with the quiet focus of serious work. Scientists move through the corridors in soft shoes, their footsteps nearly silent on the composite floor. Some wear white coats. Some carry tablets, reviewing data as they walk. All of them speak quietly, if they speak at all. The atmosphere is that of a monastery devoted to a single patient question, a question that took humanity 136 years to answer. What lives in the dark? That is the question this place was built to answer. That is the question that brought 80 people to a frozen moon, to spend years in quiet rooms, watching instruments, waiting for data, listening to an ocean they can never enter. Dr. Adeyeze Okafor meets you outside the biology lab. She shares a surname with your medical officer, no relation. A coincidence that made you both smile when you first calmed ahead to arrange the visit. She is tall, gray-haired, unhurried. Her handshake is firm and brief. "Captain," she says, "you picked a good week." She leads you into the lab. It is small, clean, temperature-controlled, humming with the quiet intent of a place where important work happens slowly. Instruments line the benches, microscopes, spectrometers, sequencing arrays, things you do not recognize. In the center, on a lit platform, sits a gel container the size of your fist. Inside the gel, suspended in clear medium, is a loose spiral of tiny beads. Translucent. Almost invisible, you have to look carefully to see them, to separate them from the gel itself. Each bead is a single cell, a single organism complete in itself, capable of feeding, reproducing, and producing light. Chemosynthetic, drawing energy not from sunlight but from the chemistry of the deep vents. The first extraterrestrial life ever confirmed by human science. In a jar, in a quiet room, on a moon of Jupiter. You stand before it and feel the weight of the moment. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a simple, enormous fact, sitting on a lit platform, waiting to be seen. Dr. Okafor dims the overhead light. The room goes soft and gray. She switches on a UV lamp, angling it toward the gel container, and the spiral begins to glow. Blue-green faint, but unmistakable. Each tiny bead producing its own light, its own small answer to the darkness. The glow pulses faintly, irregularly, as though the cells are breathing. You stare at it. You cannot help it. This small, glowing spiral in a jar is the most important thing humanity has ever found. Not because it is complex, it is among the simplest forms of life imaginable, but because it is here. Because it exists at all. Because the universe, given water and warmth and time, chose to make life again, 780 million kilometers from the only world where life was known. The bloom has been strong for 6 days, Dr. Okafor says, switching the overhead light back on. The blue-green glow fades. The spiral becomes nearly invisible again, just a faint twist in the clear gel, easy to miss if you did not know to look. Today may be the brightest. The colony density readings are the highest we have ever recorded. She looks at you with an expression you have seen before on the faces of people who live with wonder as a daily fact. Not excitement, not awe. Something quieter, something settled, calm, certain. You should go down, she says. The gallery is open. Take the elevator, 22 minutes. You will not forget it. You thank her. She nods a small, certain nod, the nod of someone who knows exactly what you are about to see. You leave the lab and walk through the quiet corridors toward the elevator bay, your footsteps soft on the white floor, and behind you the lab door closes without a sound. The canteen is on the way. You pause at the entrance and look in. A dozen scientists sit at low tables, eating quietly, their conversations conducted in murmurs. The garlic and mushroom smell is stronger here, rich and earthy. Someone has made bread. You can see a round loaf on a wooden cutting board, steam still rising from its torn center, a knife resting beside it. You consider stopping. The bread looks extraordinary. You do not stop. The bloom is waiting. The elevator bay is at the far end of the research level. A wide corridor reinforced with heavier plating than the rest of the station, leading to a set of heavy doors marked with depth indicators in white numerals. Current depth, 1 kilometer. Destination depth, 15 kilometers. The ocean boundary, the bottom of the ice. Okafor, your Okafor, the medical officer, is waiting by the doors. He grins when he sees you, a wide, boyish grin that makes him look 10 years younger. He has changed into a clean shirt, as though this were an occasion. You think perhaps it is. Perhaps it is the kind of occasion that deserves a clean shirt. Ready? He asks. You nod. He presses the call button, and somewhere far below in the deep shaft that descends through 14 kilometers of ice, machinery begins to move, a distant hum rising through the floor. The elevator arrives with a soft mechanical sigh. The doors part. Inside, the car is large, built for equipment as much as people, wide enough to hold a research module or a pallet of supplies. Reinforced walls, a rubberized floor scuffed from years of use, a handrail running the full perimeter. A small window in the door looks out into the elevator shaft. Beyond the glass, ice. 14 kilometers of it, straight down. You step inside. Okafor follows. The doors close with a solid pressurized seal. A soft chime sounds a single note, clear and brief, and the descent begins. The movement is slow and smooth. You barely feel it. A gentle downward pull, a slight heaviness in your feet, as though someone has placed a coin in each shoe. The motor hums low and steady somewhere above you, and through the small window in the door, the shaft wall slides upward, centimeter by centimeter, the ice moving past like a slow, frozen river. The ice through the window is white, opaque, ordinary. The same ice you walked through in the tunnels above, dense with tiny crystals that scatter the light from the shaft's embedded strips into a soft, directionless glow. It could be snow, compressed and frozen. It could be anything. It gives no hint of the ocean below. The depth indicator on the wall reads 2 kilometers, then 3. The descent is smooth and constant, the motor note unwavering. You lean against the handrail and watch the ice through the small window, letting the slow downward movement settle into your body like a rhythm. At 4 kilometers, the color begins to change. The white takes on a blue tint, subtle at first, like a shadow of blue cast on snow, like the pale blue you see at the base of an icicle. The crystals are compressing under the weight of the ice above, their molecular structure shifting, absorbing the red end of the spectrum and letting the blue pass through. The ice is becoming something else, something denser, something that remembers every year of pressure. 5 kilometers, the blue is unmistakable now. Rich, saturated, the deep, luminous blue of a glacier's heart, the blue you see in photographs of Antarctic ice caves. The light strips are the same as before, unchanged, but the ice transforms them, filtering everything through 4 kilometers of compressed crystal. Everything glows blue, the walls of the shaft, the window frame, the rubberized floor. Your own hands, held up in front of you, tinged faintly, impossibly blue. Okafor watches through the window, his face close to the glass, his breath fogging the surface in slow, rhythmic circles that expand and fade, expand and fade. He says nothing. There is nothing to say. The ice speaks for itself. 7 kilometers. The blue deepens further. It is the blue of deep ocean, of late twilight, of the space between stars when seen through atmosphere, a blue that has weight, that has presence, that presses against the window like something living. The ice is denser here than almost any natural ice in the solar system, compressed by the kilometers above it into a crystalline structure so tight that light can barely pass through. A sound, low, distant, drawn out, a groan transmitted through the shaft from the ice itself. The ice adjusting to pressure somewhere deep in its structure, shifting in its slow geological way, the way tectonic plates shift on Earth but slower, colder, measured in millennia. The sound travels through the metal structure and into the elevator car, felt as much as heard, a vibration in the handrail under your fingers. It is almost organic, almost alive. Then silence again. Complete, absorbing silence. The hum of the motor, your breathing, slow and steady, the small fog circles of Okafor's breath on the glass. 8 kilometers of ice above you, and the weight of it presses the silence deeper, compresses it, makes it denser, the way the ice itself is compressed. 9 kilometers. The blue is dark now, approaching indigo, a color that belongs to deep water and late twilight, and very little else. The light strips work harder, their output unchanged, but the ice absorbing more than it returns. The glow from the walls has dimmed. Shadows appear where there were none before, in the corners of the car, under the handrail, in the folds of your jacket, gathering like something patient. You think about the weight above you. 9 kilometers of ice. Frozen water stacked and compressed over billions of years, layer upon layer. The weight of each year pressing down on the years below. The thought is not frightening. It is quieting. It is the same quieting you feel under a heavy blanket or in a room with thick walls. The weight is real and immense, and it holds you in place the way the earth holds a seed, gently, firmly, with no intention of letting go. 11 kilometers. Another groan from the ice, longer this time, lower, resonant. It rises, holds, and fades over several seconds, like a whale call heard through deep water, like something vast and ancient breathing in its sleep, unaware of the small metal box descending through its body. The blue is nearly black now, indigo so deep it has lost its name, passed beyond color into something closer to presence. Through the window, the ice is a wall of dark glass, and the light strips are pale threads in a vast darkness, fragile, almost apologetic. You are descending through the interior of a frozen world, and the world is closing around you, layer by layer, pressing you deeper, drawing you down toward what waits at the bottom. 12 kilometers. The temperature outside the shaft has been dropping for hours, but here, near the bottom, it begins to rise, slowly. A degree, then another. The ocean below is not frozen. It is kept liquid by tidal energy, Jupiter's gravity flexing the moon's interior, generating warmth the way your hands warm when you press them together. Jupiter, even here. Even 14 kilometers below the surface of this moon, its influence reaches. Its gravity made this ocean, pulling and flexing the moon's interior until the friction melted ice into water. Its gravity keeps it warm. Its gravity pulled the cracks across the surface, the lineae you saw from orbit. Everything on Europa, the ice, the ocean, the life in the dark begins and ends with Jupiter. 13 kilometers. The motor hum has not changed. It is the same note it struck when the descent began. Steady, patient, indifferent to the depth. You have been in this elevator for 18 minutes. 4 more to go. The air inside the car is warm, almost drowsy, and the silence is so complete it feels like a substance, something you could lean into. 14 kilometers. The ice through the window is almost black. Not the black of space, there is still a faint residual blue, a memory of color trapped in the crystal structure. The last trace of light the ice will yield, but near black. The deepest ice on Europa, compressed by its own weight into something closer to mineral than frozen water. The elevator slows. You feel it in your knees, a slight lightening, a deceleration so gentle it is almost imagined. The depth indicator reads 14.8 kilometers, 14.9. The ice through the window is black glass, depthless, ancient. You are at the bottom of a frozen world. 15 kilometers, the indicator holds steady. The motor note drops, slows, and stops. The elevator stops. A soft chime. The same single note as before, clear and brief. The doors open, and beyond them, darkness. Not the darkness of a room with the lights off, a different darkness. The darkness of a place that was built to hold the dark, to frame it, to let you look into it. Not total darkness. The gallery is lit, but barely dim red light, the color of a dark room, recessed into the floor and ceiling in thin strips. Red because it preserves your night vision. Red because it will not compete with what you have come to see. You step out of the elevator. Your eyes, adjusted to the blue-white light of the shaft, struggle with the red-lit dark. Slowly, the gallery takes shape around you, a long, low room, curved, following the contour of the ice-ocean boundary. The floor is dark stone, or something that feels like stone under your feet. The air is warmer than you expected, humid. You can feel moisture on your skin, the breath of the ocean seeping through the walls. And there, along the entire far wall, the viewport. 4 meters wide, 2 meters tall, reinforced glass, set into the ice-ocean boundary, looking out into the water. A window into the ocean of Europa. The largest, deepest, darkest ocean in the known solar system. You walk toward it. Your footsteps make no sound on the dark floor. Okafor walks beside you, silent, his face barely visible in the red light, his eyes already fixed on the viewport. You reach the glass and stop. Your hands find the rail. The metal is warm here, no frost, no cold. The ocean keeps this place above freezing. At first there is nothing dark water, black, absolute, featureless. The viewport might as well be a wall painted black. You can see perhaps 2 meters into the water before the light gives out completely, and beyond that nothing. An ocean 100 kilometers deep, stretching in every direction, and all of it dark. You wait. The gallery is very still. A few other people are here. You can make out their silhouettes in the red light, standing or sitting before the viewport, arranged in the patient, unhurried postures of people who know that what they have come to see will come when it comes. Nobody speaks, nobody moves. The only sound is breathing. You wait. A minute passes, perhaps 2. The dark water does not change. You begin to wonder if the bloom has paused, if the timing is wrong, if you will stand here in the red-lit dark and see nothing but black water and your own reflection in the glass. Then, a pulse, faint, far away in the water, like a single match struck in a vast dark room. Blue-green. It flares, holds for a heartbeat, and fades. The dark closes over it, and it is gone. You hold your breath without meaning to. Beside you, Okafor makes a small sound, not a word, not quite a gasp. A sound the body makes when the mind has stopped working and the eyes have taken over. Another pulse, closer this time, and brighter. Blue-green, the color of shallow tropical water on Earth, the color of bioluminescent plankton in warm seas. But here it floats in absolute blackness, 780 million kilometers from any tropical water, sourceless, impossible, real. Then another, and another. Points of light appearing in the dark water, scattered random, like the first stars emerging at dusk. Each one flares and fades, but before it is gone, the next has appeared, and the next, and the water begins to shimmer with brief, overlapping lives of light. Then a wave. It begins somewhere to the left, beyond the edge of the viewport, and rolls slowly across the water, a curtain of blue-green light, moving through the darkness like weather. It illuminates everything it passes, dark shapes of mineral particles suspended in the water column. The rough underside of the ice shelf above, suddenly visible, textured and blue. The water itself, made visible by the light moving through it. The wave passes. The darkness returns, but it is not the same darkness. It is a darkness that now contains the memory of light, a darkness you know is temporary, a darkness that is gathering itself for the next wave. Another wave. This one from the right, brighter. The blue-green light rolls through the water in a slow, silent cascade, and as it passes the viewport you can see into the ocean, deep, deeper than the light can reach, but far enough to see the water thick with life, filaments, sheets, chains of tiny cells, each one a point of light, linked together in structures that stretch and flex with the current. The bloom. You are watching the bloom. Alien life in an alien ocean, making light in the dark. Wave after wave now. The light rolls through the water in pulses, each one triggered by the last, a chain reaction of chemical signaling, cell to cell, filament to filament. One organism flashes, its neighbor responds. The signal propagates outward in an expanding sphere of blue-green light, and when two spheres meet, they merge, amplify, and roll on. The gallery is bathed in shifting color. The red floor lights are overwhelmed. The faces of the watchers, the silhouettes you saw before, are lit now, blue-green, their features visible for a moment before the wave passes, and the dark returns only to be replaced by the next wave, and the next. You stand at the viewport. You do not move. You do not speak. The light washes over you, pulse after pulse, blue-green and then dark, blue-green and then dark, and each wave carries something away, some tension in your shoulders, some tightness in your chest, some thought you did not know you were holding. The organisms are colonial. Each cell is its own creature, complete and self-sufficient, but they link together, bead to bead, chain to chain, forming filaments that can stretch for meters. Under the bloom signal, the filaments organize into sheets, and the sheets into curtains, and the curtains ripple through the water like silk in a slow wind. Blue-green. The color is always blue-green, the same color as bioluminescent plankton in the seas of Earth. Two worlds, separated by 780 million kilometers of vacuum, and life on both arrived at the same answer. Make light. Make it blue-green. Use it to find each other in the dark. Parallel evolution. Two separate experiments, run on two separate worlds, separated by 780 million kilometers of vacuum, producing the same result, the same color, the same chemistry, as though the universe has a preference, as though light in the dark can only be one color, as though this was always going to happen given enough time. A wave passes close to the viewport, and for a moment you can see the individual filaments. Chains of beads, each bead a cell, each cell lit from within. They drift and flex in the gentle current, catching the light of their neighbors, responding, adding their own glow to the wave. And then the wave moves on, and the filaments fade back into the dark. You breathe, slowly, deeply. The air in the gallery is warm and slightly damp, carrying a faint mineral scent, the ocean, filtered and processed but still carrying the memory of salt and stone and the deep chemistry of hydrothermal vents. You breathe it in, and it feels like breathing in the ocean itself, ancient and dark and full of quiet life. Another wave. This one is the brightest yet. It rolls from the deep, from below and to the left, and rises through the water column like a slow-motion explosion of light. The entire viewport fills with blue-green. The gallery glows. For a moment you can see everything. The faces of the watchers, the dark stone floor, your own hands gripping the viewport rail, all of it bathed in alien light. Then it passes. The dark returns, warm and heavy, and you realize you are holding your breath again. You let it out slowly. The dark is not empty anymore. It is full of life, preparing its next wave. To your right, a woman stands with one hand pressed flat against the viewport glass. She is a biologist. You can see the station badge on her coat. Tears are running down her face, catching the blue-green light when it pulses. She does not wipe them away. She does not seem to notice them. Behind you, leaning against the far wall, a technician watches with his arms folded. He has seen dozens of blooms. You can tell from the ease of his posture, the way he leans rather than stands. But he is here. He still comes. Every time. Okafor stands beside you, his face lit in pulses. Blue-green dark. Blue-green dark. He has not spoken since the elevator, and you do not think he will speak until it is time to leave. His eyes are wide and still, and he watches the water the way a child watches the sea for the first time, with his whole body, with everything he has. You are a freighter captain. You carry cargo between the ports of the outer solar system. You are not a scientist, not a philosopher, not a poet. But you are here, 15 kilometers below the ice, watching alien life make its own light in an ocean no sun has ever touched. And you understand, in your body, in your chest, in the quiet center of yourself, that this is the most important thing you have ever seen. The waves continue. They come in patterns now. 3 quick pulses, then a long, slow roll, then a pause, then a burst from the deep that fills the viewport with light. Each pattern different, each pattern unrepeatable. A conversation in a language made entirely of light. You think of the ocean on Titan, the methane sea at Yonaguni Station, dark and still, reflecting Saturn in its surface. That was beautiful. You think of Shackleton Port on the moon, and the long shadows in the crater, of the T on the rim of Valles Marineris. Every stop on this circuit has given you something, but this is different. This is alive. A curtain of light drifts close to the viewport, close enough to see the structure, thousands of filaments, each one a chain of glowing beads, arranged in parallel lines like the strings of some enormous instrument. They pulse in sequence, one after another, a ripple of light running down the curtain from top to bottom. It takes 3 seconds, then it reverses, running upward, then down again. The current carries the curtain past the viewport, trailing filaments like the hem of a garment, and it fades slowly into the dark water beyond. Another takes its place. Different structure, different rhythm, but the same blue-green light. Always the same light. The only color life has learned to make in this deep, dark place. You lose track of time. The waves roll. The light pulses, the gallery fills and empties with color, over and over, and you stand at the viewport and watch, and your breathing slows to match the rhythm of the bloom. In, blue-green, out, dark. In, blue-green, out, dark. Down here, there is no sun. There has never been a sun. The ocean formed in darkness and has remained in darkness for 4.5 billion years, and yet life, and yet light. Something in the chemistry of these cells found a way to take energy from the hydrothermal vents below and convert it into photons, into blue-green light, into visibility. Life finds a way. In the dark under the ice, 780 million kilometers from the sun, something learned to make light. Not because it had to, not because anything required it, but because it could, because the chemistry allowed it. Because the universe, given enough time and water and warmth, tends toward light. The bloom intensifies. The pauses between waves shorten until there are no pauses at all. The light comes faster, brighter, overlapping, 2 waves at once, then 3, the water column filling with shifting, layered blue-green light that moves and turns and folds over itself like an underwater aurora, like curtains of light drawn across a dark stage. The gallery is quiet. Everyone watches. The biologist has lowered her hand from the glass. The technician has unfolded his arms and moved closer to the viewport. Okafor's breathing is slow, almost inaudible. The only sound in the room is the faint hum of the life support system and the occasional soft creak of the ice above. You watch wave after wave, blue-green against black, the slow, silent conversation of a billion tiny organisms, each one making its small light, each one answering its neighbor, each one part of something larger than itself. You watch and you breathe, and the light rolls on, and the gallery holds you the way the ocean holds the bloom, gently, patiently, without asking for anything in return. You stay a long time, longer than you intended. The bloom does not stop. It will continue for days, perhaps weeks, pulsing and rolling in the dark water, and some part of you wants to stay here until it ends. But the Meridian has a schedule. The cargo waits. You watch one more wave. You tell yourself it will be the last. It comes from the deep, rising slowly through the water column, filling the viewport with light. The water glows. The gallery glows. Your hands glow. The face of the biologist, the technician, Okafor, all bathed in blue-green. And then it passes and the dark returns and you step back from the viewport. Okafor is still watching. You touch his shoulder lightly. He turns, and in the dim red light you can see his expression, open, raw, unguarded. It is the expression of a man who has been given a gift he did not know how to ask for. He nods once, slowly, and you walk together toward the elevator. The elevator. The doors close, sealing the gallery behind you, sealing the bloom behind glass and ice and 14 kilometers of ascent. The car rises, and through the small window the ice starts its long transition in reverse. Near black, indigo, deep blue, the ice lightening around you as you rise, layer by layer, the weight above you decreasing with every meter. Blue, pale blue, blue-white. The ice groans once, a long, low farewell, and then is silent. The motor hums its patient note. The shaft lightens around you, and Okafor leans against the rail with his eyes closed and a faint, peaceful smile on his face, as though he is already remembering something he has not yet finished seeing. White. The ice through the window is white again, opaque, ordinary, as though the deep blue and the near black were a dream you descended into and are now rising from. You have risen through 14 kilometers of frozen time, and the surface is close. The light is brighter. The air is cooler. The world above is waiting. The elevator stops, the research level. You walk through the warm corridors without stopping, past the biology lab where the spiral sits in its jar, past the canteen where the smell of garlic has faded and been replaced by coffee, past the quiet scientists in their soft shoes, back to the ice tunnels, back up. The tunnels, the cold familiar now, the frost on the handrails, the translucent walls with their trapped bubbles, the soft blue-white glow. You walk upward, the gradient gentle, your footsteps soft on the rubberized floor. Your hand trails along the rail, melting a clear line through the frost, and behind you the frost grows back, erasing your passage as though you were never here. The surface module, the common room. Jupiter is still there through the window, banded and enormous and silent, hanging in the same place it has always hung, the same place it will always hang, tidally locked and eternal. The woman is still reading a few pages further into her book. The man has finished his sketch and is staring at the planet with his pencil resting on his knee, his notebook closed, as though the drawing was only ever an excuse to sit here and look. You pause at the window for a long moment. Jupiter's bands turn slowly, imperceptibly, somewhere below your feet, 15 kilometers down, through ice and stone and dark water. The bloom continues. The light rolls on, blue-green, pulsing wave after wave, and nobody has to be watching for it to go on making light. It does not perform. It does not need an audience. It simply is. The meridian, the airlock. The pressure equalizes, and the inner door opens onto the familiar corridor, the warm overhead lights, the deck plating, the faint hum of the ship's systems. The air smells like home. Your home, for 11 crew and however many tons of cargo, drifting between the ports of the outer system. Okafor heads for the galley, moving with the slow floating steps that Europa's gravity demands, each footfall a small act of patience. You head for your cabin. The corridor is empty. The overhead lights dim to their evening setting through a porthole. Jupiter watches impassive, ancient, still turning its silent storms. Your cabin. The door closes behind you with its familiar soft click. The small space is exactly as you left it. The bunk, the amber lamp, the viewport with Jupiter beyond it. The jacket hung on its hook by the door. You sit on the edge of the bunk and pull off your boots, one at a time, setting them neatly beneath the bed. Your feet are warm. Your hands are finally warm. Everything is quiet. Through the viewport, Jupiter. The great red spot has rotated further, drifting across the banded surface with the imperceptible patience of a storm that has been turning for 400 years. Europa's ice plain stretches below, white and cracked, and somewhere beyond the curve of the horizon, the port sits quiet, its tunnels descending into the deep, its gallery still filled with blue-green light. The drive engages. A low vibration, felt through the bunk frame, through the bulkhead, through the bones of the ship. The meridian lifts, slowly from the docking clamps. Europa falls away below, the port shrinking to a cluster of white dots, the ice plain widening, the fracture lines becoming finer and finer until they are threads, then scratches, then invisible, and the moon is a white disk again, small and bright against the banded face of Jupiter. You lie back on the bunk, the pillow is cool against your neck, the blanket is the same one you have used for years. Soft, worn thin at the edges, heavy enough to feel like a hand resting gently on your chest. You pull it up to your shoulders and let the weight settle. The ship hums around you, steady, familiar, carrying you outward. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the after image of the bloom. Blue-green light pulsing in the dark, wave after wave, the slow roll of it, filling the viewport, filling the gallery, filling you. Alien life, making its own light in an ocean no sun has ever reached. You carry it with you now, it will not leave. Some images burn too deep to fade. The drive hums its long, steady note. The meridian climbs away from Jupiter's gravity well, and Europa becomes a white dot, then a bright point, then one light among many in the scattered field of Jovian moons. The bloom continues below the ice. It does not need you to watch. It will go on making light, blue-green, pulsing, alive, long after you are gone, long after the meridian has crossed to the next port and the next. The light fades behind your eyelids, blue-green to blue, blue to gray, gray to dark. The dark holds you, gently, completely, the way the ocean holds the bloom, without effort, without end. Sleep comes, not suddenly, not all at once. It comes the way the waves came, rolling in from the deep one after another, each one carrying you further from waking. The meridian carries you on, through the dark, toward Saturn, toward the rings, toward Cassini Station and the last port of the circuit. But that is later. That is another night. For now there is only this, the hum of the drive, the weight of the blanket, and the memory of blue-green light in dark water rolling on and on and on. The meridian pulls away from Jupiter's gravity well, and the gas giant shrinks in the viewport from a world that filled the sky to a banded disk, then a bright point among the stars. Europa is gone. The ice, the tunnels, the gallery, the bloom, all of it behind you now, continuing without you in the deep dark. Ahead, the next port, the last port, Saturn. Cassini Station orbiting within the rings, where the espresso is real and the view is said to stop conversation mid-sentence. The circuit is almost complete. The drive hums its steady note, carrying you outward, and the memory of blue-green light settles into you like warmth into stone. It will not fade. Some things do not. Sleep now. The meridian carries you on. Good night.